I just want to smell amazing and live my life, and these fragrance houses just won't let me be great. As soon as I find a fragrance that I'm absolutely obsessed with, the next thing I know, there's a new flanker. There's a new fragrance in the exact same line with the exact same notes that may be better. That is the conundrum. That is the question. Here's the thing. We can't just be out here buying every fragrance in the exact same line. That would be insane. For most people, I do it. I buy multiple fragrances in the exact same line. And today I'm going to be a helper. I'm going to go through some popular fragrances and their flankers, and I'm going to let you know which is better, so you don't come out of pocket for the wrong one, because sometimes the wrong one is the more popular one. Let's get into it.
Can you give me just a little bit more of what I've been missing? We got time to act.
Hi, I'm Jeanique, and I do love a remix, a sequel, a flanker. Very often, if the original is fire, then the follow-ups are just as good, maybe even better. I've seen so many flankers go in new directions, take more chances, be more interesting. So that is the question at the center of this video today. Are the flankers in these instances better than the original? I have 5 very popular fragrances to talk through, explore, and they are fancy Jessica Simpson, Nomade from Chloe, we have Mugler's La Belle, Lancome's La Vie Belle, and we have Dolce & Gabbana's The Only One. We have 5 fantastic fragrances in my collection, and I have their flankers to explore with you today. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, if you like this kind of video, don't forget to subscribe, and if you're coming back, you've been here before, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Now let's get into it.
Act distant, you don't know what you're doing to me. Let me know how you feel, making time for ya. If it's real, we can.
It's like every year they come out with another flanker of this fragrance. La Vie Belle stays being replicated, so we're going to start off with this one because it's a classic, because it is beautiful, because it's a little bit controversial. We're going to talk about it. Now, I love this fragrance. It is very happy, bright, very syrupy sweet. It sits on the skin and it feels joyful, feels very outgoing and a little bit loud without being too aggressive. This is a kind of fragrance people would get on and describe as a pretty girl fragrance. It reads bubblegum pink in a lot of ways to me. Does Elle Woods wear this? Because that is the energy it gives. It is a beautiful fragrance. It mixes together pear, jasmine, a little bit of iris. There is a whole bunch in the base in the way of tonka and vanilla. It's not overpowering in the creaminess though. It is mostly thin, crisp, clean. It smells great. Now, when it dries down, the jasmine in this fragrance comes through a little bit more to make it slightly fresh, slightly soapy, but not overly so. At the base of this fragrance is just a very sweet, happy joyousness that you would want to wear on a day that it's bright out, you're feeling good, you're feeling outgoing, and that is the energy you're trying to convey with your fragrance as well. One of the criticisms this fragrance gets is that it's not complicated enough, it's not layered enough, it's not giving enough. But I think as a original that has a whole bunch of flankers, it is a fantastic jumping off point into other areas. And that brings me to the flanker I want to talk about today, and that is Iris Absolute, one of my favorite flankers of this fragrance. Now, I was on the hunt for a fake fragrance, and this happens to be one, but it is mostly floral than anything else. Iris Absolute is in the name. It is an iris heavy fragrance with the powderiness to boot, except the sweetness in here from a very jammy, almost compote-like fig is really full and rich and full of depth. And with the iris, that kind of creates a cloud around you. This fragrance feels really enveloping and rich and full. And even in the dry down, we get this warm sweetness to the fragrance that is really, really lovely. Now, as much as these are similarly sweet and similarly heavy in terms of what they're giving, the vibe of both of these fragrances is very different. I would say you are going out with girlfriends from college, you're going to grab, I don't know, martinis at a bar, you're gonna laugh and chat and catch up for 2 hours, you want to feel happy and pretty, you want to reminisce about when you were 20, you reach for this shit and you feel great about it. Now, this one feels slightly more serious, but not any older. It still feels like a very youthful fragrance. It just feels a little bit more stylized and interesting in how it layers together these other notes, like a really heavy iris. Now, if you don't like that powderiness, you can avoid this and go for something like this that is just very straightforward in its sweetness. I think these are both fantastic. Right now, I'm loving Iris Absolute, but I think on the face of it, La Vie Belle is the winner between these two for me. That feels like a cop-out because it's easy to say the original is the winner, but I think in this instance, I do think La Vie Belle as a fragrance on its own that is really fun to wear, but it's also really great to layer, is the winner between the two, because this fragrance is not super versatile in my opinion. You wear it, you love it, you enjoy it. It is hard to layer with all of that powderiness. It's hard to get rid of. And so I enjoy this one. I wear this one on days where I want to feel like my softest, most feminine self. I want to feel like a cottagecore girly. This is a fragrance that I reach for. But when I want to feel just happy, joyous, sweet, and like a whole snack, then I go for this one, and I'm always happy with the outcome. These two don't go together, not even a little bit. This is sweet caramel. This is very floral. They are very different from one another. This is Fancy from Jessica Simpson, and this is Fancy Love. Now, we always see this one being featured. I know I featured it before as a really lovely caramel fragrance. If you're looking for something crisply sweet with these fruity aspects to it, it also has a little bit of nuttiness. It reminds me a little bit of the Bum Bum Cream Cheirosa 62 in some of that mixture of caramel with nuttiness together. There's a little bit sweeter. It has a little bit of fruitiness to it, and it reads very happy, very youthful. Am I going to a carnival? That is the vibe of this fragrance. I love this one. It's just so easy to get into. This is a very different fragrance. You're wearing this to work. That is the point of this. This is a work fragrance. Now, at the opening, there's a very sharp bergamot note. It is very citrusy, almost, it's not just tart, it's almost a little bitter. It comes through very sharp. It reads closer to neroli than it does to bergamot. It's very distinct, but right underneath that are a bouquet of florals. It is hard to tell what you're smelling from whatever else. Like, I don't specifically get gardenia or tuberose or jasmine. I just sort of get a bouquet of flowers of different types. I know there are yellow florals in there. I know there are white florals in there. There might be a little tops of rose in there. There is some freshness, some greenness. There's some brightness to the fragrance. It is mostly just floral in the kind of vibe that it gives. It isn't particularly distinct, but what I'm going to say, together, these read really beautifully. The sweetness from this with the caramel, with the florals from here, and that really sharp citrusy note come together in a way that is really complementary. So if you're looking for a really easy reach everyday work fragrance and you're a floral girly, this absolutely works. And if you want something for daytime, everyday, cozy time, sit up in the house by a fire, then this one works beautifully. I think these are really lovely, inexpensive options if you're looking for that. And I really enjoy these, like I said, for play, for work, easy. When I'm trying to give bad bitch, I'm trying to give boss. I'm not just trying to be a team player at the office. One of my favorite work fragrances has to be Chloe Nomade. Now, Chloe fragrances in general, whether it's their rosier ones or not, tend to read very refined, very professional. This is no exception. Now, one of the reasons I love this fragrance is that it is a white floral heavy fragrance that reads like it's from the 80s or the 90s in how powerful it is, how heavy the citrus is, and how much of a bouquet it is. It is a lovely fragrance. It is heavy on the jasmine, the patchouli, the oak moss. It is a little bit woody. It's a little bit rich. Now, the citrus in here can be a little bit sharp, a little bit sour, tart, heads in that direction. There's a lemon in here. I really enjoy the combination. It feels fresh, it feels powerful, it feels womanly, it feels grown. I enjoy this. It's a very classy, like I said, very professional fragrance. There's a fragrance you wear when you're wearing like a whole suit at the office. It's not trying to give soft. Now, this fragrance feels a lot earthier, woodier, but the greenness in here isn't so much sharp greenness that comes from citrus and patchouli. Instead, it's just really like tea-like greenness, a lot warmer, fuller, darker, richer, and full of depth. This is the fragrance you wear on a rainy day. When you're staying at home, you want to smell a little bit earthier, a little bit fresher. This is the fragrance you reach for. You're going on a camping trip, you want to smell like the outdoors without smelling like the outdoors. This is the vibe. There's something about this that reads to me like hippie chic, right? Whereas this reads Park Avenue, like business suit. It's just a very different energy, these fragrances, even though their notes are very similar. So I reach for these at very different times. I'm not wearing Absolute to work on a regular basis because most of the time, boss bitch energy. That's what I'm trying to give. And if I'm at home on a rainy day, I'm not wearing this. I'm not, because who am I trying to impress? Who am I trying to communicate with? I'm just trying to give cozy, wrapped up in an earthier kind of feel. And I do love an earthy feel at home. So I will say, which of these is better? I think this is better in terms of its complexity, its layers, how it's developed. I think the longevity of this fragrance is fantastic. I think it's masterful. I think it's motherfucking underrated. This is beautiful. But I think the reason why I have a much bigger version of this one is that I find myself reaching for this more often. I'm more likely to wear this to run to get coffee, to go to the grocery store, when I'm trying to give something a little bit earthier, greener, something more tea-like, versus running out in this. Like this would not, I literally only wear this to work. I literally only wear this to work. This one I will wear on an everyday basis. So even though I think this is on paper a better fragrance, I think it's more interesting. I find that if I were to re-buy one of these and would need to wear it on a regular basis, I'd reach for this one instead. There's a slight mid-video pause. I almost did Scandal because I have so many, but figured it'd probably make more sense, practically speaking, to put them all in one video rather than just using 2 for this video, 2 in another one. So if you would like to have a Scandal breakdown, which of the 4 is the best one, let me know down in the comment section and I'll put that together. In the meantime, let's talk about a completely different Jean Paul Gaultier fragrance, La Belle, which I love just as much. So let's get into that one. Yeah, we're talking about Jean Paul Gaultier's La Belle and La Belle Parfum. Here's the thing, I'm not gonna hold you because you don't have the time. This one's better. Yeah, the Parfum version is better, objectively speaking, but I do, and I have to admit this one does get more complimented, but what do these men know? What do they know? Seriously. But it's beautiful. They're both beautiful. And that's the thing about Jean Paul Gaultier fragrances, is that if nothing else, they'll be sexy as fuck. Whether it's Scandal, Classique, it's Divine, whatever is out here, it feels like this brand goes in for a more sultry element with their fragrances. They're not trying to give professional or classic or ladylike or girl next door. They're trying to give va va voom energy. You see it in the bottles, you see it in the juice and the fragrances. That is what they give. This is no exception. Now, I think this one plays a little bit nicer than the Le Parfum version. This is the Halle Berry Catwoman version, and this right here is Michelle Pfeiffer. Right? It's a little bit raunchier, a little bit more, you know, slinky in what it's giving. So this one plays a little bit nicer. It reads, there's a white floral element. That's the biggest thing about this fragrance. It's white florals, it's pear. The pear isn't too jammy, it isn't too sweet. It's a fresher pear, a little bit watery, sweet, definitely, with florals. In the base, we have some complicating notes. We have a little bit of suede, a hint of vetiver, nothing too extra, not a Givenchy vetiver, nothing too smoky. It's a little bit of a dark cloud around the fragrance. Now, the white floral in here is what's leading the charge, but you can't distinguish between what type of white floral is in here. It smells like it could be jasmine without the greenness or the soapiness. It could be gardenia without the indolic element. It could be. It just smells like a very floral fragrance with a very sweet but not too jammy pear note that's a little bit watery. And it has like a dark cloud around it that makes it a little bit sexier. Do you remember about a year ago, maybe 6 months ago. Everywhere you looked, everybody was talking. It was like that sort of trend of like, if you don't want him to bend you over, then don't wear these fragrances. And La Belle, it, like, ultimately ended up on everybody's list because that is the vibe it gives. This is the ultimate date night fragrance because I've never met a man who does not love this fragrance. It's a little bit perplexing. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, they're not looking like what I want them to like, but whatever. This is a really sexy fragrance. It's dark. It's sensual. It's a very floral. It's very feminine. It's not too sweet. It doesn't go in any direction in a kind of turn-offy kind of way. It's a vibe. This one is very different. Very different is a strong word. It has a lot of the same notes, but it pushes the envelope everywhere. It does not hold back at all. This pear is concentrated pear. It's pear you've chopped up, you put it with some sugar, and you've made a compote out of it. It is sticky, it is heavy, it is rich, it is dark. There are floral elements in here. Let's not even get to the floral elements. Now, they don't say those darker notes are in here, the suede and the vetiver, but I get them. Not so much the vetiver as much because that dark cloud isn't here as much, as it feels like there is leather or suede in the base that feels really rich and heavy and very present. The jasmine in here is doing work and it is distinct in this one. So you gotta like jasmine. It is very distinct, but what it does is it cuts through the sweetness of this fragrance. So you have overly sweet pear, jammy, heavy pear, and then you just have it sliced by this very green, crisp jasmine smell. It is a vibe. It is sexy. It is exciting. It fills you up. You feel that kind of vava voom man-eater energy when you put this on. It feels dark. It feels mysterious. Do you belong to the 1920s? Are you the Black Dahlia? What is happening right now? It feels like this bottle, just like deep Merlot reds and like boobs that are sticking out. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a vibe. I really enjoy this one, and it is no competition as far as which one I would repurchase. If I had to pick, it'd be this one. It's not even close. Literally nobody agrees with me that the only one too is better than the only one. Everybody loves this fragrance. Literally nobody likes this one. I do though. So we're going to talk about what brings these two together, what they have in common, and how they're set apart, and why I love this one so much, and why possibly it's not a fave for a lot of people. So let's start off with the original. I'm not going to get into too much detail. What I'll do is I will link my caramel fragrances video that goes into heavy detail about this fragrance, because that is what it is. It is the ultimate caramel fragrance in my opinion. I'm not saying it's the best caramel fragrance ever created, because possibly, no, there are other caramel fragrances people might like more. But what I would say, it is a faithful representation of what caramel is as perfume. It is unadulterated. It is not distracted by florals, other gourmand notes, woods, nothing. It is very sweet, crisp caramel all day, every day. That is what this fragrance is. It is piercingly sweet to the point that you might have a headache if you breathe in too fast and too much. That is what this fragrance is. What it does though, especially when you can layer this fragrance with anything, it works with everything. But what this fragrance does is that it sort of melts into your skin, and it just smells like you, just sweeter, just better. And it's hard not to love it for that reason. There is something about just sweet caramel on your body walking around that feels like its own triumph. You can't help but enjoy that, love that. Sometimes the thickness, the heaviness of things like vanilla or tonka bean can get in the way when you're trying to feel relaxed. This fragrance is just sweet you, caramelly you, and it is really lovely for that reason. No, I preferred personally the Only One 2, which I could have talked about the Only One Intense, which is also a very lovely, sensual, delicious, white floral fragrance. I'm gonna talk about this one instead because it doesn't get enough shine, and it has like a 3.63 rating on Fragrantica. I'm a little bit salty about it. Now, one of the things it does that I think it, takes from the original is the piercing sweetness. But what this is sweet with is sweet fruit. Like I said, if you breathe in too hard, too fast, you might get a headache. The sweetness is intense. in this fragrance. A part of me wonders why. Why did y'all do that? Feels excessive, right? But I can't get enough of candy sweet energy, and the way they distract from the candiness of this fragrance is coffee. Very dark, very deep, very rich. It is lovely. They could also have gone chocolate, and I wouldn't have been mad about it. I wouldn't have been mad about it either. So that really dark coffee smell comes through, cuts through the sweetness, helps it to not feel so juvenile. It complicates the fragrance, but most importantly, and the sort of pièce de résistance that's at the bottom of this fragrance that makes it so special to me, is the ambergris. This heavy dose of smokiness. Now I think that's the turn off for most people. A lot of feminine fragrances just don't have a lot of like a tobacco-y type of smell, a smoky type of smell. We tend to avoid this shit, and even when it's introduced, it's like a light dose of vetiver like we get in some of the JPG fragrances, where there's a hint of it and nothing more. This is not a hint. This is a very clear expression of a very dark, rich, deep ambergris that reads very smoky. It is lovely. And I think the combination of the dark coffee, the ambergris, and the very, very sweet red berries and other kinds of fruits makes this fragrance feels like it's fighting itself. It is contradicting itself. It almost doesn't go together. It's very different within itself. And it is for a particular fragrance buyer looking for a particular combination of notes. So if you happen to love tobacco like I do, if you happen to love very, very, very sweet candy smelling fragrances like I do, if you happen to love coffee like I do, then this might be something you would absolutely enjoy, absolutely love, and appreciate, even if nobody else gets it. They're all fucking wrong. These are some of my favorite fragrance lines, and that is why I own multiple fragrances from each. They're fun, they're exciting. I love exploring the new expressions of like the DNA of each of the fragrances as new fragrances come out. Sometimes they're disappointing, but sometimes they're so on target, I just can't help but be excited. Are there fragrance lines that you absolutely love as well and you own multiple bottles from? If you enjoyed this video, leave a comment down below. Let me know some of the fragrances in this video you would love to try, you have tried. I want to hear from you, and I will see you in the next one for the next video. Love that you're here, and thank you so much. Bye, y'all.
Every second you ignore me. Now all my self-worth depends on you. When did I become so desperate? When did I become so insecure? I hate myself so you can love me more. When did I